This is Brent Richardson, and welcome to the Business Minutia Podcast, where our focus is on the details of business that are often passed over by traditional classes and leadership training. We focus on the stories of real people who have tried, failed, and learned through their experiences and are willing to share their lessons with others. Jamie, what was the first month about?
We did New Year's resolutions and things that people are trying to get better at this year.
Yeah, just change management, changing whatever. It's all change-related kind of content. What's February? What's the theme here?
Loving what you do.
And you know, you come across some people who you can just tell they just really enjoy what they're doing, and then you get plenty of people that are like, I don't know why you're still doing that. It's clear you don't care for it. And I came across our interview this week. A couple of years ago, and I've had interaction with him quite a bit since then. I had an opportunity to visit Cuba before travel and lockdown and everything else, and it had been on my to-do list to visit Cuba. And Colby Gardner at Gardner Tours that I got to meet while I was there, he led our tour and kind of organized that. And I realized right away, this guy really, really enjoys what he does.
Right. And when you're with someone who you're not sure if you enjoyed the trip more or the person more, that's a good combination.
Absolutely. And I remember I sat and talked with him for a while, and I go, you know what? Your natural giftedness is customer service. He is just naturally gifted at this, right?
Right. So we had Colby over at our house, and this conversation turned into a very long conversation. But we cut down just to the 25 minutes, the core of who he is and what he represents.
We had a lot of fun, and enjoyed memories of Cuba and chatting on this topic, and boiled it down to some of the key things in the customer service space. Before you get to enjoy the customer service education you're about to get from Colby, we want to promote his business as much as we can. In fact, if you are interested, I realize everybody feels differently about travel these days. You can travel to Cuba again. It is open, and people are getting in, and I say getting in, they're sneaking in. You legit go to Cuba,
right.
Okay? And it's way easier than you think it is. And Colby will take care of that for you and help you walk through it. So how would somebody reach out to Colby? How do they find out about him?
If you go to GardnerTours.com, that's where you can reach him and connect with him. And he is actually giving our listeners a discount, a 10% discount, using the code Minutia10, and all of that's going to be in the show notes as well. But 10% discount off any tour, so that's a good deal.
Could be, and he offers all kinds of different tours. They offer some, short weekend stuff, full week, more elaborate. If you are, so I've got some friends that enjoy a good cigar, so it's a great cigar trip. Classic cars. If you've seen movies, maybe The Godfather or something, where that you have an idea of what Havana's like. Oh, man, it's quite impressive.
But even if you're not interested in going to Cuba, what he shares in this episode on customer service is worth the listen.
Absolutely. Enjoy.
A lot of times being a tour guide and running a business, they're no different for me. And because at the end of the day, I'm delivering a high quality, memorable experience based on hospitality and storytelling.
I love it. It's fantastic.
Whether you're a tour guide, whether you're an owner, it's the same thing to me.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about customer service, one, we've got to do the background work well. And especially on a tour, you were there. There were 19 people. There were 3 tour guides, 5 days. A lot of stuff was happening, but we had to make sure that the logistics were done so well that it would never come to your hands. That way you would never see a hiccup. That way you would never be burdened by the thought of, for example, where are we going next? Is the car going to be here on time? Or anything. Where are we staying? We had to make sure that we were so well on top of those things that it made you comfortable. And I have a few things that I always say I want to keep out of the mouths of our travelers. If I can do that, out of the mouths or out of the minds, if I can do that, we're delivering well, because I'm not only serving your physical needs of these experiences, but I'm serving your emotional and mental needs at the same time. For example, one of the things I learned really quick is that if I can keep my travelers from worrying about money, oh man, we've hit a jackpot, right? Oh, well, is this fair? Or what do you think? Or how much do I need for this? Or, and that's why we started doing all-inclusive stuff, right? So that way,
think about it.
Outside of, the occasional mojito or daiquiri or souvenir, you don't have to hardly worry about anything whatsoever as far as money goes. Right. Same way with logistics. So if we do the background logistics so well that you never even think about it, that brings you to a comfort level.
So do your background work.
Right.
Which I would find consistent with my experience with angry customers, or just dealing with customers in general, has been on the back end where I'm providing a product or service that's failed, and I'm dealing with or I'm late or something like that, and I'm dealing with an angry customer. But again, doing my background work, so I'm the expert in the room, expert on the call, goes a long way. So I can completely relate. If I don't know my business, then I am trying to negotiate my way out of craziness. Yeah. And that goes, so understanding your background.
Well, the second thing that I would really push is being hospitable. This is kind of goes back to the history of generosity.
Yeah, we're just talking about treating people well.
No doubt.
Yeah, you're really just talking about across the board treating people, which I think probably goes back to this concept of empathy that you picked up on during your time, rolling around on the floor like we talked about earlier. Because I've been there too. Yeah, there's things you learn on the floor, man. We need to write a book on this.
Yeah,
that's stuff I learned on the floor.
And so when it comes down to all that, guess what? When you create win-win situations, you're not going to make as much money. But it doesn't have to be about money. It's got to be about your clients. It's got to be about your partners, everybody that's involved. Because if you're not a family, if you're not a group that's unified at the end of the day, you're not going to go that far. If there's not trust, I tell people that I work with, and every single one of them are like, I like that. I tell them every single time I bring somebody on new, whether it be a partner or a guide or whatever, I say, hey, the last day we'll work together is the day that we stop trusting one another. And they're like, oh, that's fair. I like that. And so we've got to build trust by creating win-win situations and creating this culture of honor and hospitality. What's mine is yours. And you know what? People know the line, right? Generally.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to get messed over. But guess what? That's where you learn. That's where you pick up. That's where, at the end of the day, and this kind of comes to the conversation of customers always right. Are they? Are they not? I don't know. But at the end of the day, we want to honor our customers. We want to honor our travelers. We want to make them feel that we are trustworthy, that they can be themselves, that we're going to deliver the best, no matter what.
Yeah.
And then you want me to go ahead and go towards number 3?
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 3. All right. I'll begin this with a question. How many times have you been on a phone call? How many times, whether it be customer service, you're calling your cell phone company, right? Or you're calling whoever, and you're like, ooh, this just doesn't seem very genuine. Has that been a lot? You're like, okay, this is definitely a transaction.
I'm getting a sales pitch.
Right. Yeah, this is all transactional. And so there's something that I learned early on professionally. You know when you're getting a sales pitch. You know when you're like, okay, maybe I should back up a step or two because they're trying to figure out what they can get from me or this and that. And so we've all been there, right? And that's why I tell my guides, take genuine interest in the person in front of you.
How does a person take legitimate, genuine interest in someone?
Taking genuine interest in someone is really letting them be themselves, asking the right questions, and being okay with whatever you receive.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, guess what? They may say something I completely don't agree with, but I'm going to let them be themselves.
You're talking about grace.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it really is, right? And now we would call it flexibility.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that, though.
Yeah.
Because if I can let you be yourself, if I can ask the right questions, really, if I can, essentially, it's like throwing my arms wide open and going, hey, breathe, relax.
That's fantastic.
Be yourself.
You're right. Yeah.
And I'm here to receive you, whatever that looks like.
Right.
To me, I have a picture in my head right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, I may not want to be around you 24/7.
Right.
And I'm thinking about day 6 when I can dump you. But
well, here's the thing, though. I'm not fishing for anything.
Yeah.
I'm not digging.
Right.
I'm
just giving space.
Yeah, I'm giving you space to be yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And asking the right questions.
It's inclusion.
Yeah. And no matter what the response, whether I like it or don't, or I'm confused or not, guess what? I'm going to follow up to allow you to share what you want, withhold what you want, or express yourself in any way.
What's interesting, Colby, is this is the same concept that we talk about and teach when we talk about dealing with difficult people,
right?
Dealing with horrible coworkers. We talk about the same concept, which is you need to be able to see value, which probably does come back to the empathy piece. You need to be able to see value in people, because if you don't, you wind up taking advantage.
Well, here's the thing, too. If you can take genuine interest in the person in front of you, like I said, it can be your clientele at one point. It could be the guy, your service provider at one point. At the end of the day, if we're not reaching out to take genuine interest in them, if we're not, one, allowing them the space to be themselves, or two, if we're not listening, I feel listening is one of the best parts of, good service that there is. And if we're not truly listening, we can't learn our customer. We can't learn our service provider, our partner, in the way that needs to be done. And that's what I've really, really learned is that I'm not only delivering memorable, high quality travel experiences based on hospitality and storytelling. I'm delivering memories.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working with. And it doesn't matter if it's a difficult person or somebody that's just the chillest person, maybe Yoda, right? Or somebody that's highly knowledgeable. People want to be heard.
Yeah.
People want to be listened to. People want, at the end of the day, especially when they're paying, right? They want the product that they're going for. But if we can take enough interest, listen, learn, we can deliver more.
Yeah.
Than what they're paying
I think
for.
Listening to your customers is, it's easy to talk about, but drawing information out of your customers to learn from them is incredibly powerful, right? So I'm going to give away one of my little goofy secrets that I use when I'm out on pilgrimage, when I'm out on trips with folks, and these are, again, my clients. I'm doing this for free, so whether they have a good time or not, it doesn't matter. But it does to me because I'm competitive and because I want them to, and because you want to serve. I want it to be good. I want them to have the experience that I have when I go out on a really great trip, like the experience we had in Cuba.
Yeah.
I want people to have that kind of experience. So one of the things that I always do is I play a goofy game. My kids hate it. They'll be like, "Oh, please, no more deserted island game, Dad." But I will open my trips with something called the deserted island game, which is you're on a deserted island. Like as soon as my team is off the plane and I'm chatting them up, right? It's an awkward time. We know of each other, but we don't know each other. And I'll always, and I use this even with new teams that I'll interact with. Yeah. It's just a good way to get to know people. My goal is to listen to you.
Yeah.
My goal is to learn from you. If I listen and understand you, I can value you more. And as I can value you more, and again, the deserted island game, to be clear, you're on a deserted island. You get to bring 3 CDs. Okay, no mixtapes. You get to bring only 3 original albums. Like I could walk into Walmart, brick and mortar, and I could walk out with this one. No 2-disc sets. Like one day. And the point of the exercise, and you'll hear, some people, I'm on a deserted island, I'm going to bring like how to survive on that's not the point of the exercise. Right. The point is for me to know your soul, for me to understand a little bit about what you love, what you cherish, what's valuable to you. Because now I can connect with you and I can value you. I think that's very powerful from a customer service perspective. You got to listen and you got to find a way, be an active listener.
Right.
You need to provoke to get that content out.
I have a question that I do. It's very similar. I've done this since I was in college. And I would pass notes to people in college. There'd be 100 people, 180 people sometimes. 200 people in a class, and I'd pass notes to tons of people. And a lot of times it was the same question. If you could get the answer to any one question in the world, what would you ask and why? Man, it's like mind blown. Some people are like, what are the Powerball numbers? Some people are like, why did Dad have to pass away last year?
Did somebody ever write that down?
Oh, dude.
Oh, good grief.
You have no idea.
Wow, yeah.
But it gives you a window into their heart.
Absolutely.
And so, and one of the things that I think is very key to taking genuine interest is sometimes you got to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
You can't just expect somebody to divulge everything.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that that's what I want, but I want people to be comfortable to be themselves.
And over time they will. Right?
Yes.
The longer you work with them, they do, and they will. And I've worked with customers in the corporate world where I start out with them angry at me, and in those cases, you just want to be as humble as possible, right? I mean, we can get into there's a certain level of emotional intelligence. Yeah. Now that's a fancy word for saying control your temper, right? And somebody's
get a handle on yourself.
Get a handle on yourself. You know, somebody's going to yell at you. Your best reaction is not right fist.
Yeah.
Your best reaction is to listen. Yeah. Okay, I'm just process, right? And then I've had cases where that same customer who was super angry at me, 2 years later, I'm taking them to dinner, and we're talking about biking, and we're talking about things we love.
Right.
And now with this person, it comes to Dallas, I'll get a message every once in a while, do you want to go to dinner? Right. I don't even work on this person's projects, but I've developed a connection with this person. What's interesting is you can deliver well and not connect with the customer and fail.
Boom.
That's the key part here that you're really hitting on is you guys are so good at connecting in that way. You also need to do your homework.
Right.
But if you connect really well, if you serve people well in this way, you can tolerate a little bit of error in some of the other ways. You don't want to do that. Right. You need excellence. You need to target expert, everything there, and you want it to be as excellent as possible. Yeah. But that's not where your bread's going to be buttered. It's going to be in establishing this connection and It doesn't matter. You're talking about travel direct with people, which is much harder. What you're talking about is really the lesson you're giving people is the paradigm worst case of what people have to deal with customer service. Right. Because nothing is more extreme than being on the ground traveling with somebody for a week. Right. Because you can tolerate something for 24 hours. I'm talking about being on a conference call with somebody for an hour. You're dealing with day 6. Right. Okay, that's day 6.
Sometimes it can get tense. But, to be honest, I've only had maybe 2 challenging, I won't even say difficult, challenging travelers over the years, and we've served hundreds, and we've served people from 24 different countries thus far. People that their first language isn't even English, although we provide tours in many different languages. But at the end of the day, I think the way we approach people, the way we take genuine interest, goes the furthest.
Give us some tips for a guy who can connect with people very quickly, right? Give us some tips. So you got a 5-minute window.
Yeah.
What's your key to establishing a connection with somebody?
5 minutes is so long. I'm serious. I'm like, give me 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. You got 30 seconds to connect. What do you do?
Well, 30 seconds, you have to be observant, man.
For some people, we're on a conference call with a customer for maybe an hour, 2 hours a week, and we dive straight into last week's action items. We dive straight into whatever the issue is. Yeah. So you might have a 30-second window to talk about the weather. Right. What's your connection method?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the weather. But now, are we talking about face-to-face or over the phone?
Over the phone.
Over the phone, this is a little bit more difficult. Okay. But
you want to go back to the 2 minutes?
No. One of the things you can get really quickly is how somebody presents themselves, right? Generally, you can pick up, if you pay attention enough, if they're confident or if they may, in the subject you're talking about, right? And there's always commonalities. I don't care if you're far left and they're far right. There are common things that you can connect on, and common grounds are so important. And it may have to do with a previous conversation, or this may be their first, your first call with them, but hopefully you've done a little research, right? Yeah. For me, it could be different. This is the first person or the first time I've ever talked to them on the phone. But one of the most, like I said earlier, one of the most unique things to learn and to take genuine interest is, guess what? Asking the right questions. If you can ask a question that's going to be memorable, but give them hope or give them something that's like, oh man, I want to share that because it's something I'm passionate and care about.
Give me an example.
Bam, you've got them. Like I said earlier, this might be a little bit too deep, but hey, if you could get the answer to any one question in the world,
Okay.
what would you ask and why?
Okay.
Right? That could be too deep. Or it could be silly.
Okay.
Hey, what's your favorite color? Why? Or, hey, do you have dogs or cats or both?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Or what about your kids? One of the things I've found is so important, especially if the kids are not there, right? Hey, tell me about your kids.
Yeah.
Because no parent, I'm not a parent, not yet, but no parent that I know of doesn't love talking about their kids.
Yeah.
Because their pride and joy.
Yeah.
If you can find what their pride and joy is, and sometimes it can take 5 seconds, and then you've got a window of opportunity that could be years of relationship.
Yeah. Can be as simple as, what do you got going on this weekend?
And at the end of the day, this is something I was alluding to earlier, is whatever you do in your business and customer service, it must be relational, not transactional.
Yeah.
The moment that it becomes, what can I get from them, you've lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But when it comes to knowing them and being able to deliver and add value, this is what I was going to say earlier where I got lost. If I can learn and take genuine interest in my customer, even if it's a 3-minute phone call, if I can add value, even if it's a small encouragement, has nothing to do with my tours, right? Guess what? We've created a bond. We've created a commonality, something that can be hung on it and go, I have a relationship with this guy.
Sure.
I know Colby. I know Brent. So asking the right questions, but more importantly, adding value. Even if you don't know anything about that person, you can add value. Like, hey, I can hear that you're super pepped up right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's cool to
Yeah.
hear that you're excited to be on this phone call with me. And guess what? Maybe they're not super excited, but the fact that they see you're observant and they say that they hear an encouragement, it may make them that much more excited or amped up.
And I think there are people out that will be like, people out there that are like, if you ask a question like, what's your favorite, and I've been in this situation, what give me your top, you're on the deserted island with the 3 CDs.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I'd get, especially I work a lot with teenagers on these trips, and their answer, more than likely, I have no clue what music they're talking about.
What they're talking about.
It's like, I like Quadratic Defibrillator album too. And, there's a couple of reactions that I can have to that. I can be like, I've never heard of that. Next. Or I can be like, really? Wow. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Tell me, when did you hear that for the first time,
Exactly.
right? And I'm not talking about just blowing smoke. I'm actually interested in, how did you find about that band that I have never heard anything of? And unpack and listen, because I like music, right? I can relate to that piece, and I just don't know their backstory.
Most people want to tell you what they're passionate about.
Oh yeah,
and if you can connect and get that out, guess what? You can add value.
Yeah.
Even if you can't get that out, you can still add value.
Yeah.
And it's all this whole concept of honor, right? Like, I see them as someone of value, and so I can even add more value to send them home going, wow, this was the best X, Y, and Z that I've ever experienced, whether it be a tour or whether they just bought a product from you. If you can add value and make them feel heard, and it's not about the feeling, but it's truly delivering your ears.
Yeah.
And not only that, is generally people want solutions, right?
Yeah.
So in that, it might not be, the answer to the universe, but if you add value by encouraging them, lifting them up, sometimes even just comforting somebody, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It goes to the moon and back.
So what's your keys to dealing with angry customers?
I'm going to communicate well. I'm going to do all my homework, and I'm going to serve my heart out. Not from a place of performance, but from a place of genuinely loving my customer.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Like, I've had my worst case scenario where I've sat across from angry client or angry customer, that are berating me about something that I don't agree with. I think they're totally in the wrong.
Right.
And that's the best response I can give them. I think that's like a one of the top levels of emotional
Right.
intelligence is to just respond to those cases and say, hey, I apologize. That was not the intention.
Yeah.
Now, in reality, what I want to say is you're completely wrong, and arguing it defensive, it accomplishes nothing.
Nada.
It accomplishes nothing, right? But to exactly like you're saying, you got to take the high road and just take that beating and move on about your day. But in reality, it's you're making decisions on is this battle really worth this?
Right. And you got to think about this too. I'm not being diplomatic.
Yeah.
I'm caring about the other person.
Yeah.
And sometimes, saying sorry.
Yeah. They're legitimately upset.
No doubt.
They are legitimately upset.
Saying
Acknowledging
sorry,
that is not a bad thing.
Right. Saying sorry doesn't always mean I'm so wrong. You're right. Saying sorry means I care for you.
Talk to us about people that might be interested in going to Cuba. Talk to us about people that might be wanting to go to Guatemala. I can speak personally for myself. From my experience in Cuba was absolutely incredible, right? Talk to us a little bit about what people might want to, why they might want to contact you and what you can do for them.
Well, one of the things I'll say is we specialize in hospitality and storytelling, right? And so you're going to get, for example, a lot of people, when they think of Cuba, they think of classic cars, they think of cigars, they think of the history of revolution and the architecture and the dance and the music and the rum and those types of things. The really rich culture, right? You're going to get all that, but you're going to get so much more than that because you're going to get the stories behind it all that help you connect with that history and the culture. You're going to meet the people that we know personally that's going to make you go, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to say this, but I want to come back, right? You're going to get an experience that is more unique than anything you've ever had and nothing like anything that you've ever had. And here's the interesting thing. I've been doing this since 2012 in Cuba, and every single time that I go, I get more excited than I was the first time.
Nice.
And I could have the same exact itinerary, but to me, I'm going to get even for me, I'm going to get a different experience. And our travelers are going to experience the people that we work with, the stories that we know, and they're going to get to absolutely soak in the best of the best of the best while experiencing the most memorable people, the most memorable experiences, and tasting some of the best food, because that's one of the things I won't put up with. We're going to eat good. Yes. You know what I mean?
Can attest, yeah.
And at the same time, you're going to feel at home. You're going to feel a part of the family. There's not a single person that you won't meet that we haven't known for years and that we haven't trusted for years. So it's beyond your normal travel overseas. It's something that you don't want the day to end.
Yeah. Folks, hope you enjoyed that listen and learned something about customer service, some really interesting points. I think you start to see the themes of some of these topics overlap. So there were things associated with customer service that tied back into dealing and working with difficult people. It's very interesting how these things start to overlap and you get these common truths that kind of apply in all these different areas. Let's not forget, how do they get the discount? How do they get a hold of these guys?
If you will go to GardnerTours.com, we will also have all the information in the show notes, but Colby is offering our listeners a 10% discount on any tour you want to book with him.
Love what you do, folks. That's the theme for the month. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great week.